I've seen Swimming Pools by Kendrick Lamar once be described as a deceptive celebration, and I couldn't agree more. But before I get into any of that, I want to talk about something else. You didn't ask me this question, but I'm going to tell you the answer anyway. What's one of my most favorite things in the whole wide world? From the day I discovered Miss Mary Jane, she's always been one of my favorite things. She's gotten me through so much, like math. My freshman year in high school, I failed pre-algebra, and my mom's only requirement for me back then was to at least get C's. So when I failed this, I remember she was like, you don't even have to try to be average, you just are. Like, can't you at least just do that part? So next semester, same class, same teacher, different students. But this time, I sat next to a smart kid who didn't have a lot of friends and nobody to get weed from. I was a lazy stoner who didn't want to learn this stupid math in the first place. Why do I need to learn how to add up letters and numbers, and when am I ever going to use this? So me and my new friend came to a mutually beneficial agreement. Nope, I never learned how to do algebra, and to this day, if somebody were to come to me and say, hey, solve this math problem or I'm going to shoot you, guess who's getting shot? I've made it this far in life without ever learning algebra, and outside of this one very specific situation where my life is in danger, I can't ever imagine myself thinking, damn, I really wish I learned algebra. You can probably guess I was one of those kids that was actually smart but never applied myself. I graduated as a lazy stoner who couldn't do stupid math with letters in it, but once I dipped my toes into the world of adulting and saw what minimum wage had to offer, I decided it might be time for me to say goodbye to Mary Jane just for a little while and join the family business, the Air Force. My dad prepared me for basic training in the same way that he had prepared 20 years before me. He got me so drunk I ended up hiding under the kitchen table, convinced I was going to die. When he finally found me and I informed him with tears in my eyes that I felt like I was going to die, he just smiled at me, handed me another drink and said, finish this one and then you can die. Now, I drank with my dad before, but this time he was determined to push me to my absolute limit. Why was my dad torturing me like this? Because he knew, especially back then, that a huge part of the military culture revolved around drinking. Got something to celebrate? Let's get drunk. Had a rough day? Let's drink about it. Oh, it's Friday and the sun's out? Break out the shots. That's just how it was. I think my dad literally drank me under the table that night, number one, to show me that I never actually needed to get that damn drunk. And number two, because if there was ever a time that I was going to get so drunk that Cooter Brown would be jealous, he wanted it to be with him where he knew I'd be safe. Now, of course, I was normal. I went out, had fun. I drank just like everybody else. And like most of us, I can't lie, I have some pretty wild tequila stories that I'm going to have to take to the grave. But those mostly happened on special occasions. For the most part, I stuck to like a 3-drink limit and really tried to keep it social, because on the other side of the coin, having been part of this military community my whole life, I'd seen a lot of really good people ruin some really good things because of the decisions that they made while they were drinking. I saw all the problems that would start to surround somebody when their drinking would go from something that they just wanted to do to something that they needed to do. Why am I telling you all this? Because this is exactly what Kendrick is talking about in the video we're going to be checking out today, swimming pools. Before we go any further, hi, I'm Camille and welcome to the Confused Playlist, where I get to talk about anything music related that I feel like talking about. Today we're going to be looking at the second video in a series where I'm going back and looking at old videos from Drake and Kendrick to see what I can learn about them from watching their videos. So if music is your love language too, please consider doing the YouTube things. I'd really appreciate it. When I say that, I mean subscribing, because this is a brand new channel and I really need the subs. But I'd appreciate any support you throw my way. I started this series with Drake's first video from 2009, Best I Ever Had. And spoiler alert to anybody who hasn't seen that video yet. And if you haven't seen it, you should totally go watch it when you're done with this one. But all I really learned about Drake is that he likes basketball and beautiful women. Shocker. So I'm excited to see what we learned from Kendrick's first video. Both Drake and Kendrick started taking music pretty seriously at a young age. Drake was 18 when he dropped his first mixtape, Room for Improvement, in 2006, while Kendrick, who went by K-Dot at the time, was just 16 when he released his first mixtape, Young Head Ninja in Charge, Hub City Threat, Minor of the Year, back in 2003. And I just have to say, that's an extremely long name for a damn album, Kendrick. That mixtape started making the rounds and went from this guy to that guy. You know how it works. But eventually it got him an audition with Anthony Top Dog Tiffith. In this audition, Kendrick blew him away by freestyling for 2 hours straight. I don't even think that I could hum for 2 hours straight, let alone freestyle. Anthony was obviously impressed by this and signed K-Dot to TDE in 2005 when he was just 17 years old. Over the next 5 years, Kendrick dropped 4 more mixtapes, all while collaborating with a bunch of other artists. He was touring with his label mates and basically learning everything that he could about the industry while he was still developing his craft. According to the Billboard 100, 2011 was the year that Adele had us all crying to Someone Like You and setting fire to the rain. LMFAO had us party rocking, and Maroon 5 had us trying to move like Jagger. Now, those songs got played to death, but I was looking at the list trying to figure out what were the 5 songs from that list that I played to death. So my top 5 from 2011 would be What's My Name, Rihanna, 6 Foot 7 Foot, Lil Wayne, Headlines, Drake, my last, Big Sean and Chris Brown, and Sure Thing by Miguel. I played these songs to death. If I remember, I will try to put up a list of the Billboard 100 from 2011 so that you can see it, and let me know down in the comments what were your top 5 from 2011. Now, even though 2011 was like the year of the pop star, this is also when Kendrick really started to rise to fame. He dropped K-Dot and started going by Kendrick Lamar for the release of his first studio album, Section 80. The album did well, but it didn't see the same level of like commercial success that Drake's first album did. It debuted at 113 on the Billboard Top 200 and was certified gold. Now that's what the charts were saying, which is impressive in its own right, but the streets were calling Kendrick the next West Coast savior. This would also be when Kendrick and Drake's careers started to cross paths. Kendrick did a small part on Drake's second album, Thank Me Later, and then invited him to go on tour with him.
Like I said, this is my brother A$AP Rocky, this is my brother Kendrick Lamar, this is my brother Chasing Cash.
And then the following year, they came together again, but this time it was Drake being featured on Kendrick's second album, Good Kid, Mad City. Good Kid debuted at number 2 on the US Billboard 200, earning the highest first week hip-hop album sales that year for a male artist. The album also went triple platinum, won 4 Grammys, including Album of the Year, and is ranked 115 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. The first single from this now historic album was called The Recipe, and it was a feature with his new boss and mentor, Dr. Dre. I think they thought that because this is with Dr. Dre that the song was going to do a little better. They even made a video for it, but they ended up not putting the video out. It wasn't until the second release, Swimming Pools, that things really started to jump off commercially. When asked about the concept in an interview with Complex, Kendrick said, "What better way to make something universal than to speak about drinking? I'm coming from a household where you had to make a decision. You were either a casual drinker or you were a drunk. That's what the record's really about. Me experiencing that as a kid and making my own decisions." So with all that in mind, let's check out Kendrick Lamar's very first video, Swimming Pools. We start out with this simple title screen with Kendrick's name on it. And to me, this was just his way of letting the world know he's graduated from K-Dot to Kendrick. We see Kendrick in a red suit falling endlessly through the shadow realm. We alternate between this beautiful woman dressed in black and empty bottles being smashed on the ceiling, which that's what it would look like if you were laying on the ground. Kendrick's in a room alone, dressed in white with a half-empty bottle. We see a picture of him with his dad when he was a little boy. And you see right away they only really used 3 colors for this video: black, white, and red. Now, if I were to attempt to go into symbolism of colors, we'd be here forever. So I'll keep it simple. To me, each color represents a different state of mind. In the red suit, it's like he's out of control, Kenny. And in this white outfit, he's contemplative Kenny. We see another picture. This time it's just his dad holding a shotgun, and the picture is flanked between two empty alcohol bottles. Now, this is when you start seeing flashes of TDE throughout the video. When he recorded this album, he was signed to Aftermath and TDE, but of course Aftermath was the bigger label, so I think that it's really cool that they put imagery of TDE all throughout the video. Changing by the minute, and the record will repeat. Took a sip, then another sip, then somebody's... Back in that room, Kendrick's gotten even more fucked up. He's dancing around and singing to himself before we jump into the chorus. This happened when I was pretty young, but I remember once somebody called the cops on me because I had gotten my little heart broken, and I decided I wanted to get drunk and walk up and down the street singing Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive at the top of my lungs. Now, for the record, had I just smoked a joint, it would have went totally different. I wouldn't have went out and started disturbing other people's peace. I would have cried for a little bit. Eventually, I would have got the munchies, ate a few bowls of Fruity Pebbles, and fell asleep. No need to call the cops. So when we get back to the chorus, Red Suit Kenny doesn't even know up from down anymore. He is falling in every direction. I couldn't tell at first, but the woman that we see with the wings on her arms isn't the same woman from the beginning. The first woman in black represents temptation, while this other woman wearing the white wings is trying to save him as he falls. Second verse, we switch to a party, and this entire scene is red. Everybody's drinking, having a good time, but this is the part of the song where Kendrick's conscience starts talking.
Now open your mind up and listen to me, Kendrick. I'm in your conscience. If you do not hear me, then you will be history, Kendrick.
And as the scene progresses, we see that Kendrick's gone from like white suit contemplative Kenny singing to himself to barely being able to walk.
My limit, I think that I'm feeling the vibe. I see the love in her eyes.
When Kendrick starts speaking at himself again, the color palette of the video kind of turns to gray. So if white is good, red is bad, and black is temptation, we see Kenny in a red shirt representing the bad, layered with a gray jacket surrounded by blinding white light. To me, he's even using his clothing to represent all the layers of the struggles that he's going through. As we go through the chorus again, we see Kendrick in different outfits. He's stumbling around while he walks, showing us that he does the same thing night after night after night. And then when we get to the bridge, Red Suit Kenny, he's finally done falling through the shadow realm. He finally crashes into the pool. And through the bridge, we see him stumbling, walking next to a car. This reminds me of those times when you're like riding home and all of a sudden the car starts to feel like you're on the Gravitron at a carnival and you're going to get sick and like your friend kicks you out. That's exactly what this scene looks like. Back at the party, everybody else is still drinking and having a good time. But even though Kendrick is surrounded by people, he's alone and miserable. At the end of the video, we see somebody come help Kendrick get out of the pool. However, the way the YouTube is set up, I can't see past the little things, so I have no idea who helped him out of the pool. Deceptive Celebration is the perfect way to describe this song. For me and my friends back then, any song about drinking instantly became an anthem, and this song was no different. It was a club banger. Every time he said, everybody would proudly put their drinks up in the air. None of us were really paying attention to the words. It was quite a few years later when I finally looked at the lyrics and it hit me that I'd been partying and drinking to a song that's trying to warn me about the dangers and pain of alcoholism. Every single one of us that put our drinks up in the air every single time he said, totally missed the message and looked like a bunch of damn hypocrites. Drake's first video was shot in a high school gym where he played the role of coach for a fictitious basketball team of scantily clad women. He had to lean heavily on having beautiful women and bouncing them around to tell his story. If you put that in contrast with Kendrick's first video, there is no character or fictitious storyline. Kendrick's playing the role of Kendrick and telling his real life struggle. Alcohol's always been glamorized in the hip hop community. Snoop and Ice Cube had us drinking 40 ounces of gin and juice. Tupac had us drinking Thug Passion with that nasty ass Alizé. Then at some point there was a switch up and shit just started to get expensive. Jay-Z and all them on the East Coast had to be all extra and started telling people to buy Moet and Dom Perignon and Cristal. Then you had the people down south. They said, bump all that expensive stuff. We drinking cough medicine. It didn't matter if it was a $2 bottle of Robitussin or a $200 bottle of Cristal. Alcohol's always been glamorized in hip-hop. Kendrick grew up seeing drug and alcohol abuse in his home, as well as these glamorized narratives portrayed in hip-hop. And instead of making a video telling some unrelatable story of a rich man surrounded by beautiful women, popping bottles and having the time of his life, Kendrick chose to tell the truth. His is the story of a young man who fell for that fantasy, who was just trying to be like everybody else, and then started to lose control. When asked about the concept of this song in an interview with Complex, Kendrick said, "Teenagers don't get it. We selfish," he said. "Go drink, go smoke, go get fucked up. Why did I do these things? Because I was brought up around it. It damn sure was in the household. I said, I know what happens to my family and certain friends when they get drunk and smoke. They get out of their minds, they get violent, and that's in my blood." I think I stopped watching videos at that point because I really just couldn't relate anymore. I ain't rolling around in a Benz, I drive a shitty Hyundai. I ain't popping bottles, my favorite wine came in a box, and even if I was rich, I wouldn't be spending my money on the dumb shit that they were talking about in them videos. Swimming pools is almost 15 years old, but I can still relate to this video. I can relate to the part where Contemplative Kenny is drunk and singing to himself. I can relate to the party scene where it seems like everybody's having a good time, but he's alone, miserable, and walking sideways. He has that girl in the video representing temptation for when he says that line about seeing the love in their eyes when the damage of the vodka arrives. He's talking about making bad decisions with women when he's drunk, and I can relate to that as well because I've definitely gotten drunk and made a bad decision or two. We can all relate to so much in this video. Even if you don't drink and you've never had a sip in your life, I guarantee you've dealt with somebody that you cared about that did struggle at some point. By contrast, the only thing that I can really relate to from Drake's first video is the fact that I too have been to a basketball game. What I'm learning about Kendrick is he is not one to do what everybody else is doing. He puts as much thought into the visual storytelling of his music as he does the lyrics. While most rappers choose to fill their videos with women and flashy things to grab attention, Kendrick chose to stand alone through most of that video and let the message speak for itself. Now, if you've listened to the album, you know that the video ends, but the story doesn't. There's a skit at the end of the song where his friends find him after Shireen, that girl, the Temptation, she set him up and got him jumped. So they go out looking for the guys that jumped him, and then there's a shootout, and it ends with his best friend Dave Free dying in his arms. And that's the end of that. Let me tell you the ending of my story real fast. After missing each other dearly for over 20 years, I said goodbye to the military at 0900 on a Monday, and by noon, me and Miss Mary Jane were finally reunited again, and I promise I will never leave her side again. If you made it this far, there had to be something that you liked, and if so, please consider doing any of the YouTube things, mostly subscribing because I'm a new channel, but I appreciate any support that you throw my way. If you haven't had a chance to check out the Drake Best I Ever Had video, that'll be at the end of this video. Also, before I get out of here, I'm going to throw on that Billboard Top 100 from 2011. Take a look at it. Let me know what songs that you played to death in 2011. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.